Our guest today is Jill Coleman, aka Jill Fit, which has been her personal brand for over 10 years. Jill is a fitness industry veteran and also an in-demand business coach for health, fitness, and nutrition professionals looking to take their business online and scale them. What's really unique about Jill amongst her business coaching peers is that she's also still working in the health and fitness space as a coach, creating and selling programs to consumers. So she's still got her finger on the pulse of what health consumers are looking for, how they behave, and how they make buying decisions. Not surprisingly, this is a super solid conversation, jam-packed with tons of important insights, so listen close. We love to see who's listening out there, so take a screen grab of your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. And by the way, the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. At Health Coach Radio, we are all about raising the voices of practicing health, fitness, and nutrition coaches and helping to drive this exploding industry forward. That's why we started the podcast. Okay, I'm pretty pumped about this one, so let's get on with the show. Please enjoy our conversation with Jill Coleman. Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio. Oh, I am so excited to have Jill Coleman on today. How are you, Jill?
I am so good. Thank you guys so much for having me. It is bright and early here in LA, and I'm excited to just chat to coaches about coaching. This is going to be great.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited. And we'd love to start every conversation, if you don't mind, with our guest giving us their story, a little bit of their origin story. Would you mind sharing with us kind of how you got here?
Yeah, for sure. I was really lucky. I started in the fitness industry and the health industry when I was 16, teaching group fitness classes. Shout out like Step Reebok and like Jane Fonda. Loved it. Fell in love with exercise at a young age. Did all the sports, all of the personal training. I was actually a figure competitor all through my 20s, which sort of gave me a sort of. Can we cuss on this? Do you guys cuss?
Sure.
No. Yeah. Okay. It gave me kind of a fucked up relationship with food and my body. And if you are listening to this and you have done a lot of diets, you probably know what I'm talking about. So as a result of that, it was in my late 20s that I really wanted to figure out my relationship to food, my relationship to exercise, so that I could actually do other things in my life. And when I was 29, I actually started my blog at jillfit.com. And at that point, it was just an outlet for me as a personal trainer to have somewhere to put my thoughts, the conversations I was having with clients, and put them somewhere that it could like sort of live. And in 2010, blogging was sort of the space for that. And then, on came Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And over time, over the course of about 18 months, Jill Fit grew to a 6-figure online business doing one-on-one coaching. We had about 5 coaches that were helping me with that. And it was a great problem to have, but we just didn't have anywhere to put any clients. So it really forced me to figure out business instead of just being a personal trainer, nutrition coach, things like that. It kind of forced me to figure out how to leverage this business and actually do it, which is why me kind of going through my own nutrition journey. I have a nutrition philosophy called Moderation 365 as a result of kind of like creating that and going through that process myself to have a better relationship with food and exercise. I was able to free up time and mental space to actually like work on my business and learn about entrepreneurship. And it was in 2012 where I hired my first business coach, and people started just asking me, how are you doing this? And, and I didn't know everything, but I knew enough to share with people what I had done and how I'd come up. And so I started offering some like higher ticket business coaching. And I hate people who are like, oh, I couldn't make money at fitness, so I'm just going to go into business coaching. I think a lot of people do that. It was really important to me as I grew as a business coach that I was still in the trenches with my clients and actually producing products and services within the health and fitness space. So still about a quarter of my income comes directly from fitness and nutrition products to, regular people. And then the other 3/4 is, of course, business coaching, mentorship, and things like that, helping up and coming or even just seasoned fitness professionals, nutrition professionals, health coaches, build their business and scale. So it has been an amazing journey of sort of like the fitness and nutrition side of things. And now sort of like the business in the last, I would say maybe 5 to 10 years. It's been great. Jill Fit's 11 this year.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
It's so fun. I just wanted to circle back on that one comment that you made. And that's one of the reasons why personally we were really excited to talk with you, is because we talk a lot to business coaches on Health Coach Radio, and we always learn a ton, and we're very grateful for all of that. Just a little anecdote. We interviewed Allison Tenney a few weeks ago.
Oh, amazing. Yep.
And she went off on kind of a mini rant about the racket of health and fitness coaches that just become business coaches. And because maybe they couldn't, like to your point, they couldn't hack or whatever, the needle wasn't moving in there. And so that's what really sets you apart, is you still are consumer facing. Like you still have that aspect of your business. And that there's something really like a walking the talk-ish about that I think that I personally, as a practicing health coach that's seeking business coaches, when I'm seeking a business coach, it's like, I need to know that you're still doing this work and you're rolling with the times, and you know what health consumers are looking for and what they're like, because a big part of what health coaches struggle with is programming and connecting to clients. And if you're out of the game, how do you know? Right. So,
and it could easily just be theory, like especially with business coaches, you can literally do business courses, you can go to business events, and you can learn theory. What I have found is there's just, and you guys know this, obviously you have a whole podcast around this, is like, you have to be in the trenches with your clients, like theory is great. And, but it's the exact same thing as maybe giving someone a meal plan or a food list or, workout programming, just assuming they can do it. With business coaching, it's the same. Like you have to be in the trenches. I'll give you guys a little anecdote. I was, talking to a business coach who is not familiar with the health and fitness space. And they were saying something to the effect of, we'll just put together like a PDF of like how to get a 6-pack. I was like, yeah, you don't understand our space. Like that would be something that a business coach who's unfamiliar with the fitness space would say was a good idea. So I think there's a lot of importance that if someone is looking for a business coach or wants to invest with someone, that they understand the context of the actual, like I would never do a mastermind for designers or service, you know what I mean? Or like hairstylists. Like I just can't speak to that. Now, do a lot of the marketing and sales things translate into other industries? For sure. But I'm not going to be able to help them because I don't understand the context and then the day-to-day of what they're doing with their clients. So that's why I have positioned myself as a fitness business coach. There's a huge, as you guys know, huge internet business space, and it's great. And there's a lot of money to be made and a lot of people to help. But for me, I'm still a meathead at heart. Like people keep asking me, like, are you going to give up your fitness stuff? I have like 5 or 6 fitness programs and I love it. Like to me, I'm still a meathead. I still love talking nutrition. I still love reading research articles. Like, I don't know that I'll ever scrap that because it's just lower ticket. Like it always is lower ticket than maybe a business sort of coaching scenario. But to me, like I still personally love it. So I'm not going to give that up.
Yeah. I've hired and had bad experiences with a lot of business coaches, unfortunately, but not actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to reframe that. It was all a good experience because I learned a lot about myself and my business. But one of the mistakes I made, and you just touched on it, was I went and seeked out a really flashy, big name business coach who wasn't in the fitness industry. And in my brain, I did that intentionally. It's like, I don't just want a fitness and health business. I want like a big business. So I went and hired this big online business coach, and it was such a poor fit. It was very expensive lesson. So I think that I just think to close the loop on this, that's important for anybody listening, health, fitness, nutrition coach. Definitely seek out a coach who is either still in the trenches, which Jill's one of the few, or at least has been.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that, anyone that went to college, I think they could agree that their best professors were people that were actually professionals in whatever topic they were teaching, right? Whether they were retired from that career and now teaching others, or they were already in that career and are teaching night school or something. Those were always my best professors, were people that actually understood that business. And a little side note here, the school Erin and I work for, those of us that are on staff here, we are all health coaches. We all do this ourselves as well. And so any of the content that our program produces is coming from the minds and the experience of existing health coaches. And the business development content that's in our course is absolutely basic table stakes, regardless of what business you're in, right? But there are some things that are idiosyncratic to this space that you need to be aware of. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. That's, things that are really specific to our space from a business perspective that coaches should be aware of.
I would just say the context. I think when we think about the kind of three big areas that you can make, quote, make money online, it's relationships, personal development, and business, right? Or health and fitness, I guess, is the fourth. So four big like spaces. And I think if someone is not within the health and fitness space, they have a very sort of like, it would be me trying to do, I don't know, relationship coaching and just giving like the most basic sort of advice on how to get your ex back. Like I have no business trying to produce examples of that. Besides my own personal experience, I haven't worked with clients in that capacity. So it would be the same kind of thing. And I think that right now, because of the internet space, there are so many, and it's funny because I get this comment, and I'm sure you guys do too all the time, which is the space is becoming more saturated. There's no room. And I actually find the opposite. I feel like there are now, especially with the pandemic, more people had to come online than ever. So to me, the idea that the space is too saturated, I don't think it's too saturated. I think it's getting just more specific. Mm-hmm. So for example, and I've used this in other, talks, but it's as an example, like, I don't know, in the 1960s or 70s, you go to an ice cream shop and there was chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, right? And you were like, well, I guess I don't like love any of them, but I guess I'll do chocolate, right? Now, if you walk into a ice cream shop, there's chocolate chunk, death by chocolate, triple chocolate, right? There's all these different varieties of just chocolate, all these different varieties of just vanilla, all these different varieties of just strawberry. Same thing online. So maybe 10 years ago, you were like, well, there's like 1-2 business coaches. And you know this, you guys have been around. There's like 1 or 2 business coaches that have the big names. Now there are so many people doing really specific coaching for a specific client that the coaching to client matching system is so much more specific now. And to me, that's better for everybody. Yeah. Like, so if I'm a health and fitness professional, why would I ever seek out someone who's not a business coach within my space? There's so many people doing amazing work in that space. Yes, I get, maybe I get out of my bubble a little bit. Maybe that was what you were speaking to, Erin, like getting out of the like health and fitness space. There's something nice about that. I've done many masterminds that I felt like were a little cliquish, like everyone's kind of in the same space. And there's something nice about just like getting away from that space. But because this, the online space now has so many coaches doing such amazing work, we don't have to settle for someone who's not a perfect fit. Mm-hmm. And if you're listening to this and you are a coach and you're thinking about this for your clients, same exact thing. They don't have to go to Jillian Michaels or, Beachbody or whatever. They can go to like the perfect fit for them. And that could be you. And so I think it's a mistake to think that your value as a coach is just dependent on your expertise. I think there's so much more to it. I think there's personality, there's values, there's, just energy, there's vibe, there's all these kind of intangibles that we didn't have to look at 10 years ago. Now we have the luxury of being able to find a coach who fits all of our idiosyncrasies. And I think that's awesome for everybody because they get better results, right? If the client to coach matching system is more specific, then it's going to be a dream team. And to me, that's awesome.
What a fantastic point. Yeah.
Super cool reframe. Yeah. Very cool.
And I had a conversation with a potential coach, someone looking to enroll in our program just yesterday, who said, I understand you're trying to encourage me to enroll in your program. I know this. So but I feel the need to ask a question. If you don't feel comfortable answering it, I get it. And I'm like, lay it on me. I'm always honest. We don't want people going down a direction they're not a good fit for, whether it's our program, another program, or health coaching in particular. I mean, like at all. And her question was about saturation. Is the market saturated with health coaches? And I'm going, no, all you need is one trip to the grocery store to realize how many people are clueless, first of all. But second of all, we all tend to follow the same people. Our feeds tend to have, so in our little bubble, it feels saturated because that's who we naturally connect to because that's where our interest lies. But the minute you go outside our little bubble, you realize how many people are completely unaware. And then you take a look at just the medical profession and how many doctors are out there, hundreds of thousands of doctors that are out there that are completely overwhelmed. And people are out there like, oh, we need more doctors. And Erin and I have said this before. No, we don't. We need more coaches. The doctors are overwhelmed because there's nobody else in the space that's helping them take the patient that they just finished working with and help that patient actually implement the changes that need to be made.
Not only is there plenty of space, but I think the demand for people outside of the physician is at its all-time high, right? It's going to continue growing. People are now, instead of just having like one GP, they have, a personal trainer, they have a nutritionist, they have a health coach, they have an energy coach, they have a business coach. Like, I think this sort of concierge sort of team, surround yourself with people who can mentor you. And I think it's just becoming more commonplace. And I live in LA, so like everyone has like an energy coach or something, you know what I mean? So maybe I'm a little bit sort of boxed in, but I do think that that people are more likely to want to have a team of people supporting them. And I hate to say it, but distrust for doctors is also kind of going up, right? So while we have, physicians that do great work, people are looking for and are willing to now pay for other team members to be on their MVP team, their MVP health team.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so interesting. I just had a discovery call with a client this morning who's going to sign up. And I actually have had quite a few in the last week or so. It's been a little bit of a kind of a busy, one of those busy weeks, right? And so this soundbite that I keep hearing, and we keep saying it, is, well, since the pandemic. So everybody I get on the phone with is like, this is how I used to live my life, but since the pandemic, now I live my life like this. So there's a massive like shift in attitudes that happened. Maybe that's the blessing that came out of it. And who knows? I'm really myopically in this health and nutrition space. So it's like, it seems like in this space, people are like, I used to live my life kind of blind to the importance of health and nutrition lifestyle. Then the pandemic happened. Now I want to really put it on the front burner, and I'm willing to open my wallet to pay for a coach who specializes in who I am and what I want. And the other thing is kind of getting back to this sort of filter bubble, which is that we are seeing saturation in the market because we're in the market. We're in it. So we're seeing it. In this, I'm sorry to throw out this word that we overuse, but niching, like, I don't know. I personally, I've just organically niched. Like I was a metabolic health coach. Well, 5 years ago, that was a niche. It's not really anymore at all, because that niche became kind of big. So now you're in the niche, and now it's like, I'm the metabolic health coach that has hedonistic tendencies toward pleasure and joy, doesn't want to give up the finer things in life. Like I'm going granular into that niche, and it wasn't like I had to. I mean, I had to, but also I wanted to. And also, who really am I? And so niching can be fun. It's more important now than ever. And it can also be fun because you get to exactly hone in on the people who are out there who are just like you.
I mean, that's what attraction marketing is, right? Is like this idea that and I want to validate that too, Erin. I think a lot of times people get in this space. I work with a lot of beginners, like the first year or two, of building their internet space. Maybe they're personal trainer, group fitness instructor, health coach, nutrition coach, physician, whatever. And they're realizing, like you said, since the pandemic, we've had an influx of people who were typically seeing clients across the desk or in the gym, now coming online going, I don't have it anymore. My brick and mortar, it's not, I closed it down or it's not certain. So I want to start doing some distance coaching and diversify my revenue. But we've also seen, to your point, a lot people who were just traditional gym goers now picking up things, doing apps, right? Doing Peloton, getting home gyms. A lot of people spend a lot of money on home gyms that they don't want to go back to the gym now. So they're looking for online programming. They're looking for online coaching. So while, yes, maybe the coaches space has become more saturated, so has the client space. And to me, instead of being at the mercy of your local area, if you're a personal trainer at a gym, literally, it's like whoever walks in the door, like you're sitting there hoping to get a client. Online, you get to kind of pick your audience. So when it comes to niching, I think at the beginning, there's a lot of pressure for new coaches to like know exactly who I'm going to talk to. And I don't know that ever ends up being the person you end up talking to. I think you kind of go like, well, I work with women 40 plus who have disposable income, like, and you kind of do all these like sort of demographics. What I think we're seeing now is, instead of focusing on demographics, really focusing on psychographics. So thinking to your point, Erin, what's their relationship with food? What's my sort of, what's my past history with exercise? What kind of coach? And that's really your story. That's really you sharing your personality. And I think sometimes as coaches, we want to kind of sit behind our expertise because it's just easier, right? It's less vulnerable. We just can tell people what we know. We can share solutions. And that's always great. We need to have a level of authority. People want to know that we can teach them something. But if we're being honest, most health coaches have the same level of expertise, right? Like whether they got this cert or this credential, whatever, unless you're like a PhD or something like that, typically we're all kind of the same, at least in the consumer's eyes, right? They're going, well,
Right.
so really what they're hiring us for, the reason why they're going to press the button to purchase is probably not because you're the smartest or you read the research or anything. It's probably because they connect with you on a person to person level. And so what we're now having to do with health coaches is they need to talk about, I hate to talk about themselves, but like talk about themselves with the service of connecting with someone who has a similar story, mindset, value system, personality. I don't know, you both have a dog, right? You both, live in this city. You both, I mean, it's just like those kind of intangibles is why someone's going to get off the fence and actually enroll. They already know you're smart, right? They know you're an authority. You have a social media following. There's social proof there. You already have authority. They want to see, can you relate to me? And I think that that's the part that sometimes is the scariest part, because that requires you being vulnerable and sharing who you are. And that can feel a little scary at first.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because the role that I play with our school is as enrollment. And I get a lot of questions from people about, hey, is your program accredited? Or, what they're looking for a high quality program. Absolutely. Right. But in their eyes, they're not looking at it from the standpoint of, am I going to get the education I need? They're more worried about the acceptance of where they went to school in the eyes of somebody else. They're worried about credibility. And I mean, I think at this point, the better, more productive programs have risen to the top for a reason. Word gets around about what a good program is, all that stuff. And I keep trying to turn the table. Like, what you need to look for is a program that's going to fit your needs, that's going to give you the education you feel you need to better serve your client. Here's the role with accredited. But I mean, I don't know if this is an imposter syndrome thing. I keep trying to tell them your client has no idea about any of the accreditation. I promise you they're never going to hear about the program you graduated from, because that's not their world. That doesn't matter, right? The question is, who are you? What experience do you bring to the table? And how can the education you choose bring that to life for you and help create the skills you need to be successful? So this is absolutely coming from a place of, I think, more of an imposter syndrome, not really understanding what coaches really are and the role of coaches and how these things kind of interplay. Do you mind speaking to that a little bit? And my other question, I guess, is that ever something you suffered from a little bit? And how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you. I think it is sort of, and you guys have been in the space for a long time, so you get this. I've never had one single client ask me what my credential was. I mean, I'm proud of my education, and to your point, Laura, like, it gives you the context for what you need. So, I have my master's in nutrition. So if someone asks me like a question about a vitamin or mineral, if they happen to, we can talk biochemistry. I have a lot of clients in my mastermind who go through programs so they can do testing with their clients. Like, that's something. But to your point, it really comes down to what's in it for the client. So they're never going to go, oh, and like name off your letters. Okay, I want to work with you. They're going to go, I am feeling I can't sleep. I have insomnia. I have shitty energy. I'm gaining weight. I can't explain. Like, they're going to list off their symptoms and they're going to go, do you have an expertise that can help me with that? Right. And they're going, yeah, I can do testing or whatever. Right. So really it's, you have to stick with the client's symptoms, right? The client's struggles. I think sometimes as coaches, and this is kind of the line between being a marketer and being a coach, they're not the same thing.
Right.
I think oftentimes if you're a coach, you want to immediately diagnose. You're like, ooh, that means you have adrenal fatigue, or that means you have mental, like, you want to immediately diagnose and start treating. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. That's not marketing. Marketing is allowing for the client. I hate to use the word pain points, but you have to point out the current struggles, right? What's the current frustrations, and sit with the symptoms. So if you're on a sales call, having someone, and obviously you guys do this a lot, so I'm preaching to the choir, but sitting and allowing for them to talk about their struggles, talk about their frustrations without starting to coach them up, right? Without starting to be like, ooh, that means maybe you need to because I think as coaches, we want to jump to that, and that's great, but that's what they're going to pay you for, right? So the marketing aspect is really figuring out what are those current struggles? And to your point, do I have the credentials? Do I have the tools in my tool belt to help that person? And sometimes it's a no. Someone comes to me and they're looking for, I don't know, they want to do a powerlifting competition. I'm like, yeah, not me. So I think it's really important as a coach to know, and this goes to the niching conversation, to know what you're the best at, to know what transformation you are the absolute best at facilitating, and then also permission to not do these things over here. I think knowing what you don't do is just as important as knowing what you're the best at. Because then you can, and sometimes if you're having trouble niching down, decide what you don't do. Someone comes to me and they say, I want to start a brick and mortar gym. I'm like, yeah, I'm not the person, right? Or, I want to write a book. I'm like, not my skill set. So there's a million things you could do. So I think as a coach, figuring out maybe what you don't do first allows for you to continue to be in your integrity. When someone comes to you and wants that, you can go, that's not me. And there's something really trust building about that. I mean, I'm sure you guys have turned down plenty of people who want to work with you. I've turned down plenty because I'm just like, it's not a fit, or I can't help you with that. There's someone who can do that better. And I think that's a powerful experience for both people, for them to go, wow, there's integrity here. Yeah. And that's a trust building thing. If I do ever want to build an online business, I know I'm going to come to after my gym maybe goes under or something. Right. So I think it's important to know to your point about who you are, who you're helping, and don't be afraid to get in the weeds with it. I feel sometimes we get a little scared. Sometimes we just don't even know. And so I think a lot of it comes down to what's the thing that you want to talk about all day, and what do you just not want to talk about? You don't have to go there. There's plenty of space for all of it.
I love that.
Actually, that was one of the best exercises that you had us do. So just for the listener, I worked with Jill in a intermediate to advanced business mastermind kind of situation. And one of the best exercises you had us do, and I'd never done it before, was like, who do you not work with? And I filled a page, pages. And it was like, don't do that. And it was like, holy moly. And even for somebody who's been in business for a long time, it was such an empowering and enlightening exercise. Because then I felt like the people that I do work with, they're so special. Yep. This is such a special, small.
It's not watered down. Yeah, it's not watered down. And to your point about being an expert, right? Needing, and this is the original question, I guess, which is being an expert in your space. How many credentials do you need? Now, I always tell my clients, because they're like, well, maybe I just want to get this one more. And they put off launching their business or launching their course or launching whatever, because they feel like they're not. And to your point about imposter syndrome, they don't feel like they have enough credentials. I don't think that there's a number at which you're going to feel qualified. I just don't think that's going to happen if you don't. I think the best way, and the people who I see who I would consider experts, are the people who have the most clinical reps. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, you want to, have a credential of some sort. Yes, you want to have maybe your own personal experience that you can speak from. But I think out of all the ways you could be an expert, getting reps on the ground really, to me, there's nothing comparable to it. You don't need a certification to get a result for somebody. You don't need to have the personal experience to get a result for somebody. That the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. If you are getting people results, to me, you're an expert. And honestly, that's what all the customer cares about. They literally are never bragging to their friends, ooh, I'm working with a PhD. No one has ever said that, right? They're bragging about the results that person got for them. And that's all coaching is. It's how can you generate the result that this person needs? They're not paying for Zoom calls. They're not paying for, Voxer access, not paying for a closed Facebook group. They're paying for a result. They don't care how many Zoom calls it takes to get the result, right? So I think as coaches, sometimes we want to over deliver and be like, hey, we're smart, right? Like, look at all the stuff we're giving. And sometimes clients are overwhelmed with that. So asking yourself, what do they actually need? I get this question all the time from my clients. They go, well, how much should I charge for that? How much do you think I should? And I'm like, well, let's not even put a price tag on it till we decide what the best delivery method is. What are you going to give them? What do they need? They go, well, should I just do one call a month? I go, how many calls a month do you think they need to get the result? Is it 4 calls a month, 2 calls a month, 1 call a month? What is it? We'll put the price tag on after you deliver the best product possible. And then we can price it out, right? Then we can figure out what that looks like. So I think start high level. Instead of thinking, oh, it's just every mastermind is this or every course is like this, think to yourself, what's going to get them the result? And sometimes that's more and sometimes that's less, but you have to find that sweet spot. I think that takes some time.
Yeah. Well, and this I feel like starts to get into the idea of programming. So I feel like Laura and I were kind of chatting before we got onto the recording, like, let's just pepper Jill with like the questions that we get asked all the time. You definitely get asked all the time. There's just the questions that anybody who's in the coaching sort of mentoring space gets asked all the time. One of them is, how do I find clients? Which is not the question I'm going to go to. But the question is around programming. And it's like, should I use this app? Should I use Zoom? Should I use Mighty Network? Should I use Slack? And I think what's really important to take away from what you just shared is focus first on the problem you're solving for the person. And for the love of God, don't go to market saying, work with me, you'll get 4 Zoom calls. Like, nobody cares about that. And we see people fixating on their logo, their business colors. What should I name my business? I've got these 8 different options. It's like, you're putting the cart way before the horse. Who are you? What problem do you solve for what person? Like, let's talk about that problem and the solution. And of course, the delivery of it's important. Like, I definitely, of course, want coaches to think about how they're going to deliver it. But gosh, we spin our wheels putting so much.
Yeah, I mean, the delivery is, I actually heard this, I was listening to a book by Donald Miller. You guys probably know who he is. And he was saying that focusing on like the brand colors and like the logo and stuff is similar to like an NFL coach, just focusing on the uniforms. Let's make sure the uniforms look good, right? Like, and sort of not thinking about helping his players get better. Same exact thing. I think sometimes we get the delivery method, like the deliverables, what they get, we get that mixed up with what the offer is. And the offer is not, right? The offer isn't Zoom calls or close Facebook group or whatever. We feel like that stuff is valuable because it's our time, right? So we're going, okay, this is going to be a lot of my time. It's a lot of my effort. So we're like, wow, this is a lot of stuff, right? They're getting a lot. However, that's not the same as the promise. The promise is I'm going to give you, X amount of dollars. I'm going to spend 12 weeks with you. What am I going to get as a result of that? At the end of 12 weeks, how am I going to be different, better, less stressed, leaner, healthier, whatever the outcome is? That's all they care about. And so I think don't make the mistake of listing out all the things that they get and assuming that that's going to come off as valuable to the person. It's valuable to us because it's our time. But I think that there's a difference between telling and being compelling. So I look at a lot of landing pages and a lot of sales pages. I'm constantly doing editorial for some of my high-end clients. And sometimes they make the mistake of just telling. And they're like, look at all this stuff. Like, this is not compelling. Don't assume the value is self-evident. So again, this is another example of when we need to take off our coach hat and put our marketing hat on. 2 different skill sets. I think, and you guys probably run into this a lot. I think a lot of times coaches think that because they are a coach, that they should also be able to do sales and marketing and copywriting and all these things that are completely different skill sets. And then they beat themselves up if they're not good at it. But to me, these are skills. They take practice. And there's a difference between being a person who has a business or like a woman who has a business and a businesswoman, totally different skill sets. So you have to decide, am I willing to, do I want to continue to DIY it, or am I willing to actually invest to learn from someone who can teach me these skills? And that's different. And don't beat yourself up about it. Like, you're not supposed to know how to do it. You're a great coach or but coaching is not the same as marketing. I know it sounds like strange, but I see so many people thinking it's the same thing. They start coaching up their clients on sales calls, or they, put a bunch of stuff on a sales page, and it's just not compelling. It's not attractive. It's not seen as valuable. And then they wonder why they're not getting any sales. Like, because this is not compelling. This is not marketing copy. This is just writing what they're getting. And so that's the vehicle, right? What they're getting is the process. Zoom calls, whatever. That's not the same as the promise. The promise is all about the outcome.
So could you give us an example of the difference between telling versus compelling? Maybe some of the stuff you've seen working with your clients, an example of someone who like, this is all telling, this is how you make it compelling.
Yeah. So I'll give you guys a simple sort of framework that I help my clients with. It's funny. I had a call last night with my mastermind members all about copywriting. So this is fresh. One of the most important things is oftentimes we do what I just call pro marketing. Pro marketing is why our thing is the best. So we'll go, I have these credentials. I work with thousands of clients. You get Zoom calls. There's going to be a Facebook group. You're going to have community. I'm going to help you with my own specific coaching method. Like, we talk about why our thing is amazing. And that's important. We need to point out the ways in which we're different or we're better or whatever, and the things that we've kind of put into our offering. That's important. However, that's only one half of the equation. The other half is what I call anti-marketing, which is where you start to literally point out some of the disservices happening in the space. So I might look around. So for example, I might talk about my business coaching, this, and this, but it's only seen as valuable. My offering is really only going to be seen as valuable when contrasted against what else is out there. Mm-hmm. So for example, let me give you an example. What we were talking about earlier, right? So if I want to make a case for and that's really all marketing is, making a case for something, making an argument for something. If I want to make a case for why my course, which is called FBA, it's my intro to beginner course, Fitness Business Accelerator. If I want to talk about why my program is better, I need to point out maybe some disservices or misconceptions or alternative routes that people could take. So we actually already touched on one in this call, which was business coaches who don't know our space. Mm-hmm. So to me, I might say, there's a lot of business coaches out there who know business theory, but they're not in the trenches with their clients, or they don't really understand the health and fitness space. And so you need someone who understands and has had success within the health and fitness space so they can speak to and use examples for and understand the context of what you're trying to create. That's contrast marketing. This is why mine's great, but mine is not seen as great unless it's contrasted against something else. And so I have one of the exercises I have my clients do is write down all the alternatives that someone could do besides your program. So for example, if they're a health coach, alternatives might include getting a gym membership, getting a personal trainer at the gym, signing up for a $10 a month app, buying a Peloton, right? There's all these alternative routes people could take. And literally one by one, they debunk why they shouldn't go there. Does that make sense? So that would be an example of pointing out, because I don't want to sit back while my potential clients go get a gym membership. I want to call it out ahead of time. I want to be like, hey, you could go get a gym membership. You could you can get free workouts on YouTube right now. You could do a 99-cent a month app. I want to point them out first so I have an opportunity to debunk them or to share why maybe that's not the best route. I don't want to sit back, have them not enroll and not know. So I want to actually, as a marketer, I'm going to call out the alternatives and I'm going to say why those alternatives are fine, where they're missing out, right? Where they're doing you a disservice. And so that to me is compelling language versus telling. Telling is here's my program. Here's why it's amazing. Here's some social proof, testimonials, case studies, stuff like that. That's great. But we also need the contrast.
Mm-hmm. So you offered that up in a copywriting lesson to your clients. So then if you're copywriting that into a sales page, is it sort of like, have you been bummed out by previous is that kind of corny?
Yeah, I hate, I think something that happens to people, especially when it's new, like when you're new to this, you feel like there's like one way to do it. So you see those, I hate these sales pages that are like, are you tired? Are you overwhelmed? I'm like, right. I'm depressed reading this, right? So that's what I am. I think sometimes especially if you just are new to it, you think there's like one way to do it. And for whatever reason, like my clients they write amazing social media posts, email, newsletters, like they're crushing it. But as soon as they sit down to write a sales page, they become like this weird robot. And I'm like, what do you do? Just be conversational. One of the best takeaways I can give people listening is read your sales page out loud. Right? Or read it out to your partner or your friend or your husband or your wife or whatever, read it out loud. And if it comes off robotic and like run on sentences and like just this weird, you would never talk that way, then it's probably not what you should be putting on there. So it needs to be conversational, right? It should feel like they can hear your voice in their head. But I think if you read it out loud, you'll start to be like, yeah, this sounds like a mouthful, or this is just too much, or this is not how I would actually say it. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I had, my clients do last night on the call was instead of sometimes writing it down, you might need to just speak it out loud. Pretend someone's asking you like, why this program? And then literally like, take your phone, voice note, whatever you would say out loud, write that, because chances are it's going to come out a lot more organically, a lot more conversational than it is when we sit down to write sales copy. All of a sudden we become this different person and it really comes out, it just doesn't come out as well. So your sales pages, your landing pages should be an extension of following you on social media. It should feel like the same kind of person. And I think we overthink it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a great like tactical question. Hopefully that's helpful.
It is. We've all had our eyes glazed over by one of those.
And it just sounds like they're already, here's the thing. And this is what's really interesting. I think, especially if you're new to the space, you get really nervous when you're selling, right? You're like, I don't want to annoy people. I don't want to come off sleazy. People love buying stuff. Just look around. Like we all like buying stuff, right? So it's not that they don't want to buy something, they don't like to be sold to. And that's a different way of doing it. And we all know what that feels like. You are maybe thinking about buying a car. You go to the car dealership and literally you just step out of your vehicle and someone's like on you. They're like, hey, how can I help you? What are you? And you're like, whoa, like we don't even, and they're not thinking this consciously, but we don't have a relationship yet. Like I'm thinking like, I don't really even know you. Like, I don't know. It's funny. I had this experience last week. I went to get new sunglasses. And if you've ever walked into a sunglass shop, you don't want help right that second, right? You're like there to look at the thousands of sunglasses. So literally I walked in, the person's like, hey, what can I help you with? What are you looking for? And I was like, I actually don't know what I'm looking for yet. Let me just can I just walk around? You want to try some on? You want to look in the mirror, right? And he was literally right here the entire time. And I kind of regret just buying something right away because I just wanted the interaction to end. I was literally like, this is really uncomfortable. And I would even go to touch somebody, be like, oh, those are great ones. And it was that feeling. Right. And so I think that people do want to be sold to, but they want to be sold to in an organic way and not too soon, which is why you have to establish a relationship with someone ahead of the sale, right? They'll decide if they're ready. All we can do is put the invitation in front of them and continue putting out great content. So I don't know what an alternative would be for the sunglass shop, whatever. Just let me walk around and I'll tell you when I'm maybe thinking about buying some. So I think for us as coaches, having an opportunity for people, but not asking too soon, but definitely ask, but let people decide. So be organic with it, be human, right? Don't just use social media as this transactional. I think sometimes if we get a DM from someone, we're like, ooh, this person might be a good client. It's they're not warmed up yet. Give it time, give it space. I think that's why you have to be online for a good amount of time to get that perspective. And you guys have been online for a while, so you get that. We're never in charge of when people buy. All we're in charge of is nurturing those relationships ongoing. Some people might buy within 4 months. Some people might buy within 4 years. We're not in charge of that. So all we can do is our best work and let the chips fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And be there for when they are ready. I mean, when we talk to coaches about, feeling down when someone doesn't pull the trigger right away, it's helping them understand that that's okay. You can't take it personally. They're just not a buyer yet. Right now, they're a browser. And that's okay. The whole point is to be there at the right time and be front of mind and present value to people so that they build trust with you. And then when they are really ready, I'm ready to stop browsing. You're now one of the few that they've learned to trust, and you're going to have it just a much deeper conversation there. And, to your point about the contrast marketing, I came from finance. I spent 20 some odd years in there. And the company that I worked for last had an entire portion of our company that taught advisors how to actually build their business. And we talked about the ability to sort of gently set a trap for the competition. You're not calling them out and calling it bad. It's just emphasizing what the common verbiage is, words that they use, promises that are made, and literally set the trap for that other opportunity to step in it. So that your client then, or your potential client, is like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what he or she meant by. And again, it's not bad mouthing the alternative. It's making the case for why that alternative might not be the best fit for you, because you find this one specific issue with, and insert whatever it is. Maybe it's an app. I know tons of people that buy all sorts of fitness apps and they never use it. They're paying this small, I know it's inexpensive and it's convenient, but you never use it and you forget about it because it's super inexpensive and there's nothing there to hold you accountable or to motivate you to keep using it, right? And people are like, yep, if you just go back and look at all the subscriptions you hold that you never use, the light bulb goes off, right? So that's what I mean by this is the benefit of some of these things. They're not bad, but the reason you're coming to me or you've been unsuccessful is for these reasons, and it doesn't solve that problem.
Hey, it's Erin, co-host of Health Coach Radio. I've trained men and women of all different body types and skill levels, and take it from me, women are made for strength. They may just have a different way of getting there than men do. With the Primal Health Coach Institute's Strength Training for Women Specialist certification, you'll be able to address the needs, challenges, questions, and goals most relevant to women. You'll learn how to design a training program, and then you'll develop one. You'll also learn how to co-create individual eating strategies for clients and how to navigate potentially sensitive topics like menopause, reproductive cycles, hormone-related dysfunction, and diet culture. If you want to empower women to become fitter and stronger, then visit primalhealthcoach.com and learn more about our specialization in strength training for women.
But the reason you're coming to me or you've been unsuccessful is for these reasons, and it doesn't solve that problem.
Totally. And it's interesting you say that, because I really think it, if let's just say I did have a $10 a month app, right? Mm-hmm. Then I could switch it and be like, here's why this is great for you. So for example, maybe you might say, flip the script and say, for some people, there's DIYers. They don't need a lot. In fact, like I'm not kind of that way. I don't like to have a whole bunch of coaching calls on my books, and I don't want to talk to someone all the time or whatever. So I might just give me the workouts. I'm actually good. I might not use them exactly as planned, but like every once in a while, if I'm like in a, traveling hotel, like, sure, I'll just jump on there. $10 a month to me. So I think for a coach, don't make the mistake of thinking that you only have one person in your audience. You have a lot of different types of people in your audience. You have DIYers, you have people who want a lot of FaceTime with you. You have people who want high ticket. I always tell my clients, because they're always scared to increase their prices, there's an aspirational sort of feel to investment. Like there are people in your audience right now who don't want something cheap. They want the best, right? They want that high. They want to be in that like really high ticket. And it's funny, I had this experience just earlier this year. I was ready for a mastermind, like to be in one myself. And I applied to work with someone who I really respect and I think does really great work. And it was a $25,000 mastermind. I filled out the application, took me like, 15, 20 minutes. And then when I clicked submit, it rerouted me to, and we're marketers, so we get this, it rerouted me to a page that was like, hooray, it's 50% off today. And I was like, what? Like, I was literally like, and so it had the opposite effect of what I wanted. So I think for a lot of people, it really was their lucky day. Like, ooh, I get to like coach with this person for half off, $12.50, which is still a significant amount of money. But I was like, ooh, actually, I take my application back. It's like, it had that odd. So I was in the headspace of, I don't want to nickel and dime this. I want top tier. I want the best. I want FaceTime with that person. I'm not trying to budget, shop today. So yes, there are some people who will always want the cheaper option. There's always people like that in your audience. Then there's people in your audience who are ready for that full deal. Maybe 2 years ago, I wasn't ready, but this year I was ready. So I actually pulled my application back, went with someone else who had a $25,000 mastermind. And we got on a sales call and I said, just so I'm clear, this is the top one, right? Like this is the most expensive one. Like, I don't want to be in like a scrubby one. Now, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, I would have been like, you know what, let me just get in, like, let me just have a little access, right? I wasn't ready for like that full, because I knew if I was going high ticket, I'd be on the hook. And I think sometimes maybe that's why our clients don't choose the higher option, because they go, oh, now someone's really going to be my face. Someone's really going to hold me to the things that I say I want to do. And that's the power of coaching. So there is an inherent risk when you invest with someone, like all of a sudden you're on the hook. It's easier to fly under the radar if you don't invest. But if you're putting up, a lot of money for a health coach, all of a sudden you have to become someone different, and that can feel scary. But I think don't make the mistake of thinking that everyone wants cheaper or everyone was bargain shopping. I think there's a large part of your audience who sees investment as aspirational. To me, I love that. I love talking about, making a big investment, because I know every time I do, I'm leveling up. And you have people in your audience right now who are ready for that investment.
Yeah. I always like to remind people, like, hey, you're a consumer too. How do you buy things? Like, if you're going to go buy a new computer, I can go get a computer at the drugstore, $600 Toshiba.
Totally true.
But I want the $2,500 Mac, and I'm not even going to bat an eyelash because it's what I want. I'm excited about it. It's, whatever it is, right? So, but it's like we forget that we're also consumers. We forget that we buy high ticket things and we buy low. There's certain things that we budget shop for. And totally. I always go with the bottle of wine. I'm like, I'm not going to buy the $13 bottle of wine. I skip that part of the wine store. I'm going to the $35 bottle of wine. That's the kind of person I am. And those people are out there. Sometimes they do linger in the shadows for years. I can't tell you how many clients I've had that will say, I followed you for 4 years.
Yep.
Like, great. That time was going to pass anyway. And I was out there just keeping it real in the social feed so they could just really make sure. Because to me, it's like if I'm going to buy a $25 computer, or I'm going to go on some kind of resort vacation, I'm reading the reviews. I'm making sure that it's really, really like, I'm not just going to pull the trigger on that because it is money. I want to really make sure, but we all know what it's like to be a consumer of high ticket goods. So I always like to remind coaches of that.
Totally. I mean, and that's also a good point, right? Like not everyone's a Groupon person. Like there's some things that like you probably shouldn't get a Groupon for, like your Botox, right? Or something like that. Like you probably don't want to like Nick. So I think it's important, like you said, to remember that you have those people in your audience and that can be, and to your point, Erin, this person whose mastermind I joined, I never bought anything of his before. Like, and so I think we kind of talk about the ascension model, getting people in at low ticket and working them up to like these different levels. Like for me, it was just the right time, right person, right time. Like it was just boom. And so I'd never even listened to his podcast really. I mean, I knew who he was, but it was more like, I just like, he had what I wanted, right time, right price point, let's go. And so I do think you have those people like who are lurking for years, and I think it would be a disservice to sell them like a $17 ebook, right? Like let's give them, and like that's why it's important to have a product suite where you have different offerings for different people, different parts of your audience, different price points, different deliverables, to meet people where they're at, and then cycle through those. So, I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably have a one-on-one coaching offer, which is great, but some people don't. Like I personally don't love having a lot of Zoom calls and a lot of, phone calls and check-ins with someone. But so what else is there? Is there another alternative? And circling back to our marketing conversation, then you just change your compelling language and you make a case for this thing and you make a case against the other thing. And it's not out of your integrity to do that because it's for two separate people, two different types of audience members.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion? Because we've talked to some business coaches that are like, you need to focus on one thing and sell the heck out of that and make that amazing, blah, 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 like one thing. And then there's others that are kind of recommending that ascension strategy that you're talking about. So do you have an opinion as to one being better than the other, or does it really depend on the circumstances? What are your
maybe for the brand new coach? Because I think for a brand new coach, we've talked a lot today about like coaches that have a thing already, but like maybe for the brand new coach, what is your recommendation that way?
Yeah. So I actually am of the mindset that you do need one signature offer, especially if you're new. Like you need to perfect this one offer and break through with this one thing. So I do see the mistake where a lot of new coaches, because when you get in the space, you're like, wow, I can create whatever I want. This is really fun. Like, and so you kind of get enamored with just doing different things, different products, different challenges, different, group programs, one-on-ones, all this kind of stuff. Cause it's fun. It's fun to create. What I see too often is someone trying something one time and then not getting the result that they want. So they just trash the whole thing and they do something completely different. And so and we kind of talk about the coaching space, and especially using social media, we're in the trust business, right? So you have to break through with one product. And I see this a lot of times with coaches who have been in the space for maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and they've been spinning their wheels. They've never gotten to the point where they feel like their business is taken off. These people, they have maybe they have a 5 to 10 one-on-one clients at one time, and there's never anything else. It's because I think they jump around too much. So I think that yes, especially if you are new, you need to have one signature offer that you start with and get results for clients with, and generate a huge body of work with that one thing. So if you are a health coach, then your program is probably going to be like a 12-week or a 16-week or something transformation program, right? It's like, it's a vehicle. It's not just like a course or something like that. It's like someone's going to come in and they're going to come out on the other side a different human. What is that transformation? Get really good at that thing, and you'll know when it's time to create the next thing when people start asking for it. Cool, I did this 12 weeks. What's next? Right? What's next? What's the next thing? And so I do think that it's important to quickly add something like a next level to whatever that is. Once you have enough people go through it. But if you can't break through with one offering, then how are you going to be successful with 3 offerings? So I think, yes, to your point, you have to have something that you do really, really well in the beginning, generate a ton of social proof, a ton of client testimonials, get a ton of, case studies, capture all of those, tons of word of mouth, referrals, things like that. Now you know that you're ready to move into a second iteration or a higher level. And so for business, like my signature course is FBA. It's a 6-month beginner to business course, right? But what happened was at the end of 6 months, I had a lot of people who were now intermediates, and they're going, where should I go now? Right. And so it would be a disservice for me to not have an offering for what that looks like. And so I have to create that space. And if you do a good job with the first offering, then people are going to be asking you for a second.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Love that. Mm-hmm. And I'm certain that somebody listening, or many somebody's listening, is like, this is all good, but I have 0 clients. How do I get my first client? So I wanted to ask this question of you, because we get asked all the time, is how do I find clients? So how do I find clients is the question. And the answer is enormous, but like, I'm putting you on the hot seat. Like, what would be your advice to somebody who's like, I'm at 0 clients. How do I get that first one?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously there's a ton of places we can go, but let's just say you're brand new to the space, you just got your health coaching certification, you maybe have a Facebook personal page, you have an Instagram account maybe, and everyone is following your friends, family, acquaintances, whatever. I think it's a mistake to think you need a larger following. I think you have people in your immediate audience right now who need help with their health and fitness. And as odd as it can feel to like sell your neighbor, that's going to be your first client, right? Your neighbor, someone you knew from a gym you used to work at, someone you went to college with. And don't make it weird. It's fine. They still need help with their health and fitness. So don't turn them down. Don't be like, oh, it feels weird to sell my person I know. It's like, that's only people who know you right now. Right. So don't make the mistake of thinking you need 10,000 followers, you need to get a certain level on social media. You have people right now. Now, how you talk to them might be a little different than how you would talk to strangers. So you're not going to show up maybe on Facebook and be like, hey, everyone, I have 5 spots for coaching. And it feels really robotic because they're like, Jill, we know you. Like we went to high, like what? Feels weird. There's a disconnect, right? So if I was just getting started and all the people I connected with online were people I knew, I would probably speak to them like we already have a relationship. They already know me. They already like me. They're following me, and they probably trust me on some level. So that's good. That's like, to me, that's great. That's already that's most of the battle's already done. So I, at this point, need to probably start, and this is what I would personally do, is I would alternate sharing my personal story with tools, tips, and takeaways, like solutions. I personally, this is like literally my playbook. I would probably start a closed Facebook group, and I would invite all of my friends and family to join. I wouldn't care if there's 10 people in there. And I would probably go live in that group every single day for 30 days or 60 days or however long it took. And I would just tell my story. I would give solutions, takeaways, tips. And I wouldn't even probably talk about my coaching. I would just invite people in, and I would give great content, and I would share my story. And as a result of that, people will start adding their friends, right? If the content is good, people start adding their friends to the group. And now I have this closed container of people who are interested in this content. The sales will come. Yes, I can invite them and whatever, but I think that people are really too quick to jump to I have 5 spots. And I think that we're all kind of savvy to that now. It's like, you don't have 5 spots, right? You have 500 spots, right? Right. So I think I don't love that, especially if you're new. Now, if you really only have 5 spots, then cool. Then that's real scarcity. But then that would be more of an exclusivity language. I'm looking to work with these kinds of people. If you're lucky, you'll get a spot, kind of a thing. But if I was just getting started, I don't have a body of work yet. I just don't. So I need to create that. I can't come in and be like, you knew me from high school track team. It's like, hire me for, pay me $1,200. No, it's like, you have to kind of start to build your body of work. And you can do that honestly, you can do that on your personal Facebook page. I think people, they discount that because it's their friends and family. It's like, look, if you want to build this as a business, they're going to have to know at some point that you're trying to make money online, right? You can help, of course, but I see a lot of people trying to keep them separate and be like, I don't want to annoy my friends and family. I'm like, those are your earliest clients. And also, if you believe in what you're doing, then why would you deny them the opportunity to learn from you? To me, that's great. So if you have a lot of things that you have, and that piece about sharing your personal story is really important, because people need to see themselves in that story. They need to see themselves in the before. So when you talk about how you used to struggle with food and used to overexercise and you were spinning your wheels and you're obsessed with dieting, they're going, damn, that's me right now. Maybe Jill can show me your playbook and take me through the same transformation. It sounds like she has it now. She's, things are easy for her now. Maybe she can show me. So you need to, yes, be the expert, but you also need to pull back the curtain on your own story as well.
Okay. So to go from client 0 to client 1, build a body of work.
You have to. But that would be client 100 too. You know what I mean? Same thing. It's rinse and repeat. I don't think you get to skip steps. Now, I think if you're like, I need to make $1,000 this weekend, then you can You can do personal invites, right? You can do some of these more like what I call just like, sort of duct tape strategies, back pocket strategies, urgency, scarcity, whatever. It just depends on the kind of business you want to build too. Like my business is what Shantae and I call a legacy business, right? She's the same. Like we don't want to make a quick buck. I want to be around for 25 years, right? So that's a different way of doing it. So I'm not worried about I'm not worried about taking a long view. I want to build a body of work. And that's what I did at Jill Fit. We blogged every day for the first 2 years. And it wasn't like we blogged and then we made $1 million. It was literally like you just build this body of work, you become this trusted resource so that 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road, I know if I need to make $1,000 today that I can. And that's something that you earn over time.
Well, I think in the absence of a body of work, that's why your personal story is so important in the beginning. Okay. Totally. And it doesn't have to be, I lost 200 pounds. It doesn't have to be that way. It's tying everything into your life experience and what drove you in this direction. And thus, here's the value that you bring. And I love absolutely everything you said about you don't have to have this enormous following and that, not to be out selling your friends and family, because you're right. That feels weird. It feels icky because it's a wrong thing to do. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with offering to help. But there's a difference between being preachy and telling people what they should do when that advice is uninvited to having an open ear. And when people are asking for help, being open to that and then offering. That's how I built my business early on. I really wasn't even on Facebook. Here's the other thing too is I'm no swimsuit model. I'm not a figure competitor, but I looked better than the other 40-year-old moms that were on the baseball field, and other people. Like the more you just sort of live this and be authentic to it, you don't have to, look like you popped off men's or women's fitness, but you do to a certain degree have to walk the walk here. And this is where your story comes in, because if you're like, I still have 20 pounds to lose, but you just overcame a huge health issue, or you've lost 50 pounds, or, it's overcome a crappy relationship with food. That's a big one right now, right? All of that that's where your story comes in. It's what provides context to who you are and sort of the business you want to serve. And so I guess I want to thank you for framing that to try to help remove this, like, well, in order for me to be successful, I have to do this first, this first, this first, this first. No, you got to get out there first.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge mistake, is a lot of times people will sit on the sidelines thinking they need to have, like earlier in the conversation, we talked about branding and colors and name and all this stuff. Like, oh, you can always change that later, right? You can always change all of that later. You literally, all you need to do to start making money is a social media account. Like that's it. You can build your email list later. You can build your website later. You can do all that stuff later. And to your point about like not being preachy, this is something I do see early on with people, because they're so excited about what they want to teach and how they want to help and whatever. Super easy fix for this is, instead of using the word you, use the word we, right? So we need to do this, or we should focus on this, or we all struggle with this thing. It makes it feel so much more inclusive, and it doesn't feel preachy like, oh, I'm better than, it's not like, oh, I'm enlightened and like, you're still you still don't know what you're doing. Like, it feels like we're all in this together. I'm just maybe a step or two ahead. Like, come with me, right? So it's not just like, look at me, it's like, come with me. And I think if you can share your story in that way, in a really vulnerable way, an open way, but an inclusive way of saying, when I was struggling with this, it was this, it just lowers the status. So someone feels like, wow, Jill could really understand me because she struggled with that thing too. And to your point, it doesn't need to be these like enormous transformations. It can literally just be like, a struggle that you had at one time, like with your mindset or your food relationship or whatever. But it's your story. And to your point, being able to show, and even if you don't have like the credentials quite yet, or you don't have the reps yet, you at least have your playbook. And I think that's enough to start. I think what worked for you. And I think a lot of times coaches start with that. They just have to reverse engineer their own process. Now, there's going to be clients that your process isn't going to work for, right? Maybe you do need more tools in your tool belt, but you can at least get your first initial clients by sharing, hey, here's what I did. And here's how I made this transformation. And here's where I used to be struggling. And now I'll never go back to that, whatever that thing is. And so to your point, I think early on, and it's hard. I mean, I think it's easier once you start getting clients, because now you have testimonials, case studies, social proof. getting your first handful of clients is probably the hardest. And if you're listening to this and you're a new health coach, I don't know, I find a lot of solace in going, this is the hardest it's ever going to be, to be honest. Where you're at right now, the smallest your audience is ever going to be. This is the hardest it's ever going to be. You're learning all these new skills at the same time as you're trying to get clients. Like, it only gets easier. The problem is most people tap out because it is hard, right? It's definitely hard in the first couple of years, but over time, again, you build your body of work. You have now a bunch of clients you've helped. You have testimonials, case studies. You learn more. Things start feeling a lot easier. It's just that most people don't stick around to get to that point.
You know what I think a new coach needs to do? And I'm going to share a story that articulates this, I think. We'll see what happens, I guess. But we have to harness some hubris, whether it's manufactured or real. So here's my story. I've got an acquaintance who, for 15 years, as long as I've known this person, she was the office manager at a lawnmower store. Okay. On Facebook one day, she posted, "Hey guys, I'm starting a new venture. Pop a comment below if you want to learn more about ketones." So you're like going into the MLM ketone business. And I'm like, okay. 10 people popped a message below. Yeah, tell me about ketones. 5 minutes ago, she was the manager of a lawnmower store. Now she's like, hey, I'm an expert on ketones. What do you want to know? Hubris. I took amounts of it, right? And at first, my gut instinct as an observer was like, what? This is hokey. But people were into it. They're like, man, she's doing this new keto thing. Let's give it a whirl. And because she came out with this very super overconfident sort of vibe, and she had a lot of posts that were kind of like this. She's built a whole community. She's, I don't know, making fat stacks, selling ketones for all I know. But that's the piece of it. It's like, just freaking step into it. Like, don't be like, meek isn't going to work. I don't think. Don't be meek. Just like step into it, own it. It's a thing you wanted to do. You're doing it. Go do it. It's definitely you're not going to knock it out of the park right away. That's okay. To your point, Jill, it's like, this is the hardest it's ever going to be. And I always share the story that I remember when I was building my business, when I had 0 clients, when I was building my programming and writing my materials and typing the letters off my keyboard. It was such a drag at the time. I remember it being a drag, but now I look back on it so fondly. That was the beginning, and that's so cool, right? But I fully acknowledging that when you're in the trenches, it feels like a real drag, but you can own it.
I know. And you look back on it and you're like, wow, I did that, right? Things maybe you were scared to do a year ago. You're like, oh, I like, that's just something I just do now. It's just easy for me. And to your point about the hubris, I love that, because I think MLM, I have a lot of issues with it, but I think they do a really good job at leadership. I think they do a really good job of being like, hey man, if you want to make this work, you just got to own it. And I think we could use a lot more of that. And especially as women, I think, like, I don't know, like generalization, but I think men tend to just be like, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm like, they've never done it before. Right. So but I think we are always very careful that we are, that we want to put out a good product and we want to stand behind it and we want to make sure it works. So when it comes to something like ketones or whatever, I tend to think there's a lot of people who are like, oh, like ketones or whatever, and like want to, kind of talk shit and police and whatever. I always think that stuff comes out in the wash. To be honest, like, let's just say those 10 people start doing the keto diet, using ketones, whatever, and they're getting results. Like, who am I to say that that's not valid? Right. So, but if people aren't getting results, that will also come out in the wash. Like, I mean, I love it. I love the fact that we have reviews now, that like, that we can, that social media exists. Like, to me, I'm like, yeah, let's have the marketplace self-select, right? Let's like let that happen. But who's to say if someone's getting a result with ketones that it's not good? I'm like, shit, they're getting a result. It's their perception they're getting. And so for me, that's fine. It's totally fine. And people will make their way to wherever they need to go for that moment, right? So I have a lot of people who I do Moderation 365. It's my nutrition philosophy, moderation, mindfulness, stuff like that. You guys are familiar with. I know Erin is. And a lot of times I'll have someone who comes, oh, I really want to do this, but I really still feel like I have to track macros. And I always tell them, totally cool. I'll be here like when you're ready, right? You'll know when you're ready. This isn't going anywhere. Go do what you need to do. They're like, I still want to do another fitness competition. I'm like, go do it, right? Go do it. And then when you're ready for this, you'll know. You'll come and you'll be like, yep, I'm totally ready to stop counting. I just want this to work. I want to learn how to eat intuitively, whatever it looks like. And so I don't think you have to force it. I think people have their own journey. All we're in charge of is putting out that content, what we believe in consistently, and then consistent invitations for those who are ready. So maybe someone wasn't ready 3 months ago, but now they're obsessively tracking and they're like, I'm so sick of this. I'm so fed up. I just want to do anything but this. And then I slide in with a social media post or an email talking about moderation and mindfulness, and it might be the right time. So don't try to micromanage. I think I see this a lot in the beginning too, because you maybe only have a small group of people that you think could become clients. So you kind of micromanage. You're like, I did a free consult with them and I went back and forth in the DMs with them. They owe me money. It's like, they don't owe you money. But I think at the beginning, we want to micromanage because maybe we just don't have as many people quite yet. So every little action feels so huge because you haven't done that many things yet. I see this a lot on social media. If you post something and you're new, you put so much pressure on each post because you're like, this needs to get likes, this needs to get engagement, I need to grow, just because you haven't had that many reps yet. And then, now you have hundreds of posts, thousands of posts. And it's just, I don't even look at my likes anymore. It's just like a drop in the pond, right? It's just like another check mark. So I think that there is, with time and space, to what you said, Erin, there's just gives you perspective. And then you can look back on that and just like have a lot of compassion for that new entrepreneur, just trying to do their best. And you did great. And look at you now, so I think, but a lot of people don't take that long view. It's very like this myopia of like, is this post working? Did this person buy? Just because you haven't had as much experience and perspective yet.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing a little bit? I think this would be a great example for people. So your program, Moderation 365. So first of all, I would love to hear a little bit about it, but also how did your past experience coming from where you came from go into building that program to fit the niche and the client you're trying to serve? Mm-hmm. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, it's actually really cool because moderation is now a certification. So we've certified over 100 professionals in it. So this was in, I would say, like this sort of my personal journey from this obsessive exercise and diet space. It took about 3 years to make kind of like full transformation into moderation, mindfulness, eating intuitively, however you want to call it. And now the space is huge, right? Intuitive eating is huge. And like all these kind of like, but when I was starting, it wasn't that big. So a lot of the strategies that I was sharing in real time, and the blog allowed for me to share in real time, some of the things I was trying out, and for all I knew, people were doing this in other spaces, but I didn't know anyone who was doing this kind of stuff. So I kind of came up with my own frameworks and systems and things that I like, tools that I just named off the top of my head based on what I was doing. So instead of kind of an all or nothing thing, I started doing what I called intermittent sampling, which is like taking bites of stuff and then putting them back. And I was doing something I call preemptive cheats, which is like what we might call like nutrition non-negotiables or satisfaction, nutritional gimmies or something like that. So I started using some of these words that I was creating, and I was like, I'm doing this behavior. I don't know if there's a name for it. I'm just going to name it something. And as a creator, you can kind of do that. So I was kind of sharing my IP and some of these words and phrases and behaviors that I was doing to help myself get out of that all or nothing sort of way of doing things. And like I said, my sort of nutrition transformation took about 3 years. And after that, I sort of reversed engineered my process. And I was like, what was I actually doing? Because I think sometimes we forget what we did, right? We're like, oh, I'm just this new person now, and I don't remember. So I had to go back and there were specific moments when things started changing, and I kind of put those down. And I actually created a Gen Pop course called Food Obsession Bootcamp first. It was just for regular people who wanted to learn and kind of like learn from the things that I had taught myself to do. And so that was just a direct to consumer. I think it was like a $50 course. I launched that in 2014. Now we're seeing so much more about intuitive eating and mindfulness and food relationship and whatever. And I think it's so great, but I was lucky that it was kind of new back then. It was really like kind of on the edge of, and especially because social media was just growing too. So there wasn't as much talk about it. Now, of course, there's a lot of talk. So in 2014, I launched that course every year and literally had thousands of people go through the course, which was awesome. So I was able to kind of prove the methods. It wasn't just like me anymore. It was like, oh, now thousands of people have had success with these tools, systems, frameworks, whatever. And then we launched the course in 2020 for the first time as a certification. People have been asking for it for years. And I was just like, I don't want to do it. And so anyway, we dove into that last year and we've certified, like I said, over 100 people since. But now it's cool to see like my IP now going out and I have these coaches actually teaching their clients and they're getting great results with their clients. So it has like, it came from sort of my own experience. Then I had to go, does this work for other people too? Can this work for other people too? Because you guys know, like knowing something and teaching something, two different skill sets, right? So I might be like, oh, this is the thing that worked for me, but can I now teach it to someone else so they can get a result as well? So we proved the method over thousands of clients over the course of about 4 or 5 years. And then we launched the certification. We're like, okay, can we teach this to other people to be able to teach, which is again, a third skill set, so it's been a learning experience, but it certainly came out of, and I never read Mindless Eating. I never read Intuitive. I never read any of those books. I just knew kind of my own journey and kind of put my own IP on it. So
amazing. Yeah. That's just an awesome journey from a personal experience to a consumer facing program to now that sort of exponential, like now I'm educating educators, like that's just a really cool trajectory. And like we talk about scaling, people talk about scaling a business. How do I scale my business? And it's like, first of all, you have to have something to scale. So let's
you have to prove it in your method. I see a lot of people just not proving their method. They're going, I have this, my own experience, I'm trying to do a certification. It's like, whoa. Like, I feel really grateful that for 5 years, we literally had thousands of people going through that low ticket offer, that 4-week course, getting results. Like we literally have hundreds of testimonials of people going through that course and what they learned and their aha moments and how they're different now. And we're able to take those and go, okay, this actually could be a thing that we could certify professionals in. This is a proven system. And I know that there's a lot of, obviously there's intuitive eating, there's a lot of different spaces now that are certifying people in this. And I feel really grateful that we have our own little like space, and it's resonated with a lot of people and we've got a lot of people results. So to me, it's great that more and more people are starting to learn these tools. And
it sounds fun. Like hearing you talk about the journey, although and it was a ton of work for you, but it's like, it feels fun. Like how cool to create something out of your own lived experience and have it just gradually. It was over 5 years, right? Or longer to build, to run it, collect the data, tweak, adjust, run it again, bring it back in, behind the curtain. Gosh, that sounds fun. Like, I just want to put that out there. Anybody listening who's like, man, this sounds like a lot of work. Yes. And it's such a cool adventure. You'll have such a great time doing it. Like, I don't know. That's my little weird pep talk. It's totally really fun to create something that is so meaningful to you as an individual. You don't get to do that when you don't often get to do that when you're collecting a paycheck from somebody,
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's the difference, right? And that's why I do love entrepreneurship is literally you get an ROI right away. Like, if you work for a corporation, it's great. And like you get a paycheck and it's just the certainty of that. But oftentimes you don't always get to feel what your day-to-day activities or actions in the business, how it impacts the end user, right. But when you're getting in real time feedback and you're getting people going, wow, this tool really helped me. And like this completely changed my relationship with food. Now, I will say that from a marketing perspective, it was a little bit of a challenge because how do you market? And this is like when I launched the course in 2014, there was no one was really, there were like mindless eating was a little bit of a thing, but like there weren't a lot of people talking about this. So there wasn't a lot of familiarity. I couldn't say, this is how to help you eat more intuitively. Like that wasn't a thing then. So there wasn't a ton of sort of people who go, oh, is this like intuitive eating? Or is this like, so there wasn't a lot of familiarity. So I was sort of having to create, and of course, this is my own little bubble. I'm sure people are doing this in other spaces on the internet. But I had to so that's why I called it food obsession, because I was like, I don't know how else to call it. Like, that's literally what it was for me. It was this food obsession. And so you have to decide, okay, what does that look like then? Counting, measuring, ongoing mental calculation, thinking about your macros constantly. Like so you had to describe how someone would feel, because not everyone wants to jump on, oh yeah, I'm obsessed with food. Like, that's not a great thing to admit. I think it helped because I was food obsessed. I was body obsessed. I was exercise obsessed. So it's not always an easy thing for someone to say, raise their hand and go, yeah, I'm food obsessed. But if you can describe the symptoms, then they go, oh yeah, maybe I do need that course. So from a marketing perspective, I think it would be easier to market something like that today because, I think it's so much more well-known, and there's a lot of people who do want to learn how to eat more intuitively and understand their body and whatever. We're just seeing a lot more content around that. But back in 2014, it was definitely a very niche program for a very specific person. And I would have people come to me and say, I need to lose 10 pounds. Will this help me? And I was like, no, this is not a weight loss course. So I think it would be easy to dangle the carrot and say, and promise weight loss and be like, yeah, you have a better relationship with food. You're going to be able to lose weight. But I drew a hard line on the sales page. This is not a weight loss course. This is a food relationship course. It will help you learn about your body. But like that was kind of new back then. So I feel grateful because I feel like we were, I don't want to say on the cutting edge. We were definitely on like the front side of that. And now it's a certification, which is cool. So now I don't really do that much of the teaching anymore. I have, certified pros do it. It's awesome.
And I think this is something so many coaches can benefit learning about because, there are many coaches that are coming to market. And I can't imagine I'm the only one like this. Like the vast majority of the people that come to me are looking to lose weight. They just are, unless I'm just like, that's not my niche. I don't help you lose weight at all. But most of them that they're looking for something along those lines. Mm-hmm. But I also think coaches that have been in this business a while realize, again, 90% of the clients that have this problem are because they have a problem with something related to food, whether it's a negative relationship, mindless eating out of boredom, just habitual, whatever it is. But I think coaches helping clients understand what intuitive eating really means is not just mindless boredom eating. Hey, my intuition says I need Doritos. There's other things that go on in the background here. And I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding around what that really means. So a course like this that really just brings out, I don't know, maybe the precursors to really being able to understand what intuition really means as it relates to food and how that impacts your relationship. It sounds like it's super simple, but it's not that
it's
simple.
Obviously complex, right? Like it's once you get in, you're like, oh, okay. But like, I think what I'm seeing now is a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to lose weight, but I want to do it intuitively. And I'm like, that's not, literally, it's not a diet, right? It's not a diet. And so I think you have to attract people who are just ready for losing weight to not be sure. Like maybe in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, I'd like to lose 20 pounds at some point. But you have to attract people who are just done with that being the main goal. It's kind of like when you teach someone, like online business, right? So like if I'm trying to, like money can't be the goal, right? You can do things that create money, but you can't be passionate about money. It's the exact same thing with weight loss, like in intuitive eating. It's like, yeah, do you want to have a byproduct of improving your body composition? Sure. But that can't be the goal. That's not the front and center goal. And I think all of us probably, and I know for Erin, like it would be a disservice to your clients to just be like, because we can help a client lose weight tomorrow. Like it's not hard. Like just, eat less, exercise more, put you in a caloric deficit, boom. But we would never do that from an integrous perspective because we just know that they're going to gain it all back and all this. And it's going to, not only that, but it's going to mess up their metabolism, their psychology, their physiology, like all that stuff. So it would be out of my integrity. Now, it's not to say that you can't lose weight and do it in a way that is sustainable. But when you come into Moderation 365, we're not just putting you in a caloric deficit right away. So you have to really be clear. And I think to your point, people just want to lose weight because they think that's the only thing on the menu. They just go, well, I just lose weight, right? It's just like what I've known since birth. Like I just need to lose weight. And so I think it's our job as coaches and even marketers to point out that there are other things on the menu. And can weight loss be a byproduct of that? Can money be a byproduct of following your passion and being really good at what you do online? For sure. And it will be. And in my experience, it's those who would do what we're doing for free that become the most financially successful. It's the exact same thing when it comes to weight loss. If you are just passionate about learning about your body, about wanting to know how you tick, what your personal preferences are, your own psychology, your like understanding all those really amazing things about your body, you're probably going to end up having a better body composition overall because you're going to start doing the things consistently that are in line with that. So it's almost like a backdoor approach, right? We have to get our people, whether it's fitness, nutrition, whether it's business, you have to be able to say, yeah, I want to focus on the process. I'm committed to the process. I'm committed to what I'm passionate about. I'm not committed about the outcome. The outcome will happen and I'm fine if it happens in however timeline it happens. Does that make sense?
I think there's an argument for this aspect being foundational to a healthy weight loss, right? That understanding your body first and foremost and understanding what eating intuitively means, I think you're absolutely right. Over time, you begin to realize, you know what, I'm just bored. I'm not really hungry. Maybe I should just go find something to do, instead of.
Or you're just not even thinking about it, right? Or just like it's not even on your radar.
Absolutely. And I think it could be a very foundational part of any weight loss program where you kind of need to go through this first. The first 4 weeks or the first 8 weeks is this.
And this is where we got to be marketers, right? Because that's not intuitive to the average consumer. Right. They're going, I hired you, get me the weight loss. So it's on us to have those conversations up front and be very clear. So I have obviously some of my Moderation 365 coaches. They're like, my client, this woman came to me and she wants to lose weight. And I'm like, well, don't promise weight loss. Like it might not be a fit, because it's just like, yes, might she lose weight over time? Sure. But we're not in the business of promising that as a direct, like happening tomorrow result. Now, there are plenty of people online who are willing to promise a 20-pound weight loss in 12 weeks. And it's not hard. You could literally put someone in a caloric deficit. It's just like, can you be in your integrity doing that? If you know it's not going to be sustainable, right? If you have that hint that it's not going to be sustainable, I would be out of my integrity to not teach people mindfulness and not teach them about moderation and not teach them about their own psychology and all that kind of stuff. So I think you have to be ready as a coach to help people unlearn some of the old narratives because they're coming to you going, I just need to lose weight. Just put me on a diet because they think that's the only thing available.
Yes.
And that's hard, right? You got to massage that conversation. You got to be a good marketer.
Big time. We have kept you way too long, and I have me count here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 million more questions to ask you, but I don't have time. But what's really great is that, Jill, you have a relatively new podcast where you're dropping all of these little business building nuggets. Like each episode is a nugget, like a bite-sized little nugget of a lot of what we talked about here and a whole lot more. Plus, obviously, a lot of your offerings for business coaching. So let's do the old wrap up where we start talking about where people can find you and get help from you.
Awesome. So if you are here and you're a professional, I would definitely recommend just starting with FitBizU. That's my podcast. It is all the episodes are 15 minutes or less, and it publishes 3 times a week. So it's super, super bite sized. You can listen to it on your commute or while you're cleaning or on your leisure walk or whatever. And it's very tactical and it's very like strategic. So if you've listened to this episode and there's a couple of takeaways that you're going to start implementing, I think you'll get a lot out of that. And I'm launching my course, which is called FBA, Fitness Business Accelerator, this September. So it'll be next month. And that is for newbies to internet business. If you are a healthcare professional of some sort and you want to learn all the ins and outs, A to Z crash course in all things internet business, that is it. So if you guys follow me on social at Jill Fit, you'll get all the details.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jill. This was so much fun. I agree with Erin. We could go on forever, but that's not fair.
I know. Y'all are great.
Yeah. So thank you again so much. And feel grateful.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. It was awesome.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.